as much time as possible to spend time with a good doctor. Okay.
You are not live streaming.
Okay, we're live streaming.
Yes.
Brother Fleming, I'm sure that he will arrive soon, inshallah, God willing, that is. So we'll start out with the opening chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, and we'll go with that. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. With Allah's name, most gracious, most compassionate, merciful Redeemer, all praise is due to Allah, the Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone do we serve, thee do we worship. Thine aid we seek. Show us the straight path, the path of those upon whom is your favor, not the path of those who go astray after knowing the truth. Ameen. Okay, so MAP5, Muslim American Power 5, October 20th, 2025. Honorable Cheryl Sudduth, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to break that ice, as we say?
I got my chisel.
Okay.
Let me see. So, assalamu alaikum, first of all.
Wa alaikum assalam. That is, peace be unto you.
Thank you. It's been a weekend. It's been a week. And it's been a whole month in 2 days. And so, as we go into fall, I want to tell you guys, first of all, I had to explain to someone the difference between fall and autumn. I'm not going to tell you. So, we're going to see if anybody knows the difference between fall and autumn. So, before we get to that, I want to kick it off with asking, what is your either favorite autumn memory or activity that brings you that joy from either childhood or the best memory that brings you the goodness, makes your hijab or your kufi or your Tims tingle. Oh, we got Manira, she ready already.
Yeah, you gave us an easy one today. Yeah, so I'll say wa alaikum assalam to you. May you be blessed with peace as well. And it is the beauty of the changing of the leaves, how there is such beauty in the transition and such color and such diversity in the creation. That's my favorite. That's my favorite time to see that change.
Yeah.
It's a sign in that, it's just a sign in that we're all changing and we're all going through transitions. So let's do it beautifully.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Sister Amatullah.
Well, I agree with that totally. It's especially when you live in a geographic area where you experience those different um, colors of the leaves and the changes that are going on. But I'm going to be on a more carnal level, shall I say, insane. And my daughter surprised me with this the other day. She brought me in a carton of eggnog. Eggnog reminds me of this time of year, and I just love it. So call me shallow, call me what you want, but that eggnog hit the spot.
All
Didn't
right.
expect that one, did you?
Oh, I did not. Don't call me off guard.
Just being real, just being real. But
All
as I
right.
sipped my eggnog, I was looking at the beautiful leaves outside.
The beautiful leaves, so you put them both together.
Yeah. Non-alcoholic, I should say, eggnog.
Yes,
For
yes,
those in
yes,
the audience who are
yes.
thinking otherwise.
Yes. All right, who's next? Come on, let me know. I saw her face pop on, then she disappeared.
Phone Lala, I think, is Haja Tahida. I know she would have a good one. Phone Lala, Haja Tahida, is that you? You want to unmute yourself? Maybe she doesn't realize it's showing up as iPhone Lala.
Oh, everything
Oh no,
begins
that's
with
a
the
different sister. I'm sorry. I said
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum
Alhamdulillah.
assalam. How are you?
Hajjalala. I'm good. Alhamdulillah. How about yourself?
Good, good. You want to introduce
Yes,
yourself
thank
to us?
Allah.
Where are you joining us from?
Fort Valley, Georgia.
All right, Georgia in the house. And your name?
Alhamdulillah. Hajjalala.
Haja
iPhone
Lala.
Lala. Yes, ma'am.
Haja Lala. So you wanted to share something with us?
Yes, eggnog is my favorite drink as well during this holiday. That's when I think of it. And
Yeah.
uh, I like the leaves and the grass going from one color to another. But this is a nice time of the year because it's not too hot, not too cold, which I don't like cold, but I come from New York. So, but I came
Oh,
down here to be warm. Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah.
Because I don't like the cold. I don't like the
Alhamdulillah.
cold. But alhamdulillah, I've got a nice day today. And I just finished eggnog, I think 2 days ago. So, and they have so many different flavors, but what I do, I mix it with either water or either milk because I can't drink it straight,
Too strong
but
for
I do
you.
like eggnog as well. Alhamdulillah. Oh,
Alhamdulillah.
yes, it's too sweet for one
Mhm.
thing.
Okay.
But I was told by symptometry teacher, he says I shouldn't drink the eggnog. I do have cholesterol, so I have to pull back a little bit on that. But other than that, it's good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for taking my call.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu
Walaikum
alaikum.
assalam.
Alhamdulillah. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Sister Martha, what you got for us?
All right, and greetings of peace to everyone. And you see my background, right? I'm always monitoring the United States, and so my area of fall, autumn is placing myself in a thinking mode. I'm here with books and calendars and writing notions. So I write, and at this time of the year, it really enhances my focusing on, um, how people are doing.
Mm, okay.
So I love studying people. So I'll leave it right there.
Okay. So we
Yeah,
have Ishmael, Michael Hameen, and we'll bring in Brother James. We'll say Brother James, Dr. James.
Brother Ishmael put a comment in the chat.
Oh, you did?
Everything begins with the fall of Autumn. Adam.
Fall of Autumn Adam. Okay. Philosophical. What about Michael Hameen? You want to unmute yourself, Brother Michael? Cheryl, you might have to restate the question for him because I think he may
Yeah,
not have been on.
please. Yes, assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum assalam wa
Like my song.
rahmatullah.
Peace and
What?
blessings.
what is your favorite memory or the thing that you like best about autumn, or some people call it fall? The thing that makes your Tim's tingle, or your
What,
kufi pop,
what are the Timbs? I'm not familiar with that term.
Timberland boots.
Okay. All right,
We call them
California.
Tim's. We call them
All right,
Tim's, bro. We call them Tim's.
California. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. West Side. Okay, yeah. What comes to my mind? I was born and raised in Washington, D.C.,
Mm,
and I was kind of sickly, and I had issues with allergies and whatnot. And the fall rain, which every time the barometer started moving and the rain came, it helped my sinuses and my what do you call that stuff? Migraine headaches. So
mm.
that's a fond memory that I have, and the colors of autumn. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So I think we got everyone. Dr. James Garrett is in the house. Do you want to share with us, Dr. James?
Well, I think, yeah, thank you very much. I, I probably, I mean, I was born in Dallas, Texas, very stark four seasons in my where I grew up. But fortunately, I've lived almost everywhere in the world. So autumn in some places is rainy season as opposed to dry season, or where the temperature is high, weather as opposed to being low. So there's some places where they're not four seasons. There are two seasons that repeat, or there might be three. So I think that perhaps my best welcoming of this time of year is the variety that I've been able to experience around the world of what happens in what we call the fall, or what we call autumn. Because in some places where the leaves don't turn brown, they are green 300, 340 days a year. And there's some places where there are no leaves, like in the desert where I work now in Namibia. So I have to look at it in different ways if I had to collect my experiences. I'm lucky enough or been exposed enough to appreciate all of it.
Alhamdulillah, praise God.
Very
And
wonderful to see
that's
it.
an excellent opening for what
Let,
we're going to get into.
yes, it is.
Okay, right ahead.
Let me just steal 1 second. I love that. I love it. The perspective is, it kind of opens up before we begin, the reason I asked that question about the difference between fall and autumn. I know that fall is like this American English kind of word, and autumn is more, what they use almost everywhere else except here. And it's the fall of the leaves you think about, right? But for me, I think Brother Michael mentioned it just reminds me of childhood, that rain that comes in, and
Mhm.
it signifies it for autumn and spring. It signifies the newness of creation. You get to see in the spring we call it mariposa, right? It's the butterfly. But in the autumn, you see the migration of the animals. And so the animals are, I just saw it when I was down in Southern Cal. I saw the birds gathering in their migratory pattern
Mm.
to head uh, to their winter homes. And you get to see the animals get ready to shed. I saw the snake, which I don't like snakes, the humankind or the other mammals. But I saw this snake outside, and my daughter and I was thinking about this. What, Diwali is today, the Festival of Lights. And it's one of the things that they also talk about. It's the beginning of the fall, you know, uh, the Jewish tradition, Yom Kippur was about a week and a half ago. It's the start of uh, of asking for, this period of forgiveness and atonement. And all of this occurs during this time of when you shed the leaves. And I think it was Sister Manira was saying that it is a time when you're shedding that. And I look at it as we're shedding old habits. You're shedding old things that aren't productive for you. And you're heading into this new period of time. A lot of us get stuck in it, but so I'm hoping that this conversation today will lead us will continue to lead us, let me say that, into this direction of a new falling into, I'm going to say it. So, sister, I'm going to give you your segue. Falling into a new commitment to this our commitment to each other and to our humanity. I think we got everyone.
Yes, we did.
So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, an update on a Fleming El-Amin sighting. Brother Fleming will be here during the second hour of the program. He is currently a co-leader of the prayer vigil and rally for poor people's campaign in Greensboro. So he is on the case. We know that he is very, very active. And so Dr. James Garrett was one of the first guests that we had on MAP5, Black in the Blog Talk radio days. And he was a guest that I had on with a program that was in February. And we looked at, he was on as to review with us his history and involvement in the student committee that worked for the setup of Black Studies in San Francisco, which was the first, if not the first, one of the first programs in this country, with the current head of the Black Studies Department at that time. And I had invited him because I'd had the privilege of, when I was on the Berkeley campus, he gave a talk to the Black staff on the campus. And also he gave a talk at the law school, Berkeley Law School. And I found it fascinating to see the response of the staff, primarily older people. Not all older, but the majority of them were older folks. And then the talk with the students, primarily younger 20-somethings on up, a few maybe older students, but there were also staff there also. And I guess the one word that I would come away with from the audience response for both presentations was inspired, inspired. And I say that not to puff him up, but the brother is the real deal in terms of what Allah has blessed him to be able to do, and also the circles and the projects that he has been blessed to be involved in. And so I had thought Michael Hameen, I guess no more than 2 months ago, we were having a discussion because our mission here with MAP5 is to educate, encourage, and really put a spark under ourselves and our audience to become more civically and politically engaged. So about a month ago now, not even quite a month ago, Dr. Garrett posted something on Facebook, which surprised me because he had previously posted that he was taking a sabbatical from Facebook. His account had been hacked. And so I was surprised. So, of course, when I saw his post, I read it. And he was at the time, and this was right around, I think it was the same week or the week after when the current administration had deployed the National Guard in DC. And he was relating that he attended a meeting, a conference of sorts of activists in DC. And during it, he mentioned that he had traveled with CLR James to England. And I was like, and I don't remember. I remembered his CV. I said, I don't remember him ever mentioning that in what he had on his CV. Now, of course, his CV, he included his work with SNCC, his work over at San Francisco State, his of course, his degrees that he has. When I say doctor, I'm not, fluffing it off. Just, some people right away, send away for their PhD and they get it back in the mail. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about serious study after law school degree, after master degrees. He also started, I believe, but he definitely headed up an entrepreneur in the Peralta Community College. I know it was on the campus in Berkeley, I believe, a course in import export, international import and exporting. So he's done a lot of accomplishments. He's mentioned to me in the past about working with a health project in Namibia that, inshallah, God willing, if we get time later today, he can relate to us. But that thing about CLR James stuck in my mind because I read a book in one of my college courses by him. And so, as fate would have it, so I was like, well, I have to contact him. As fate would have it, I saw on Netflix a movie, Mangrove. It's called Small Axe, I think is the name of it. But anyway, the opening scene is this Mangrove street sign. And I thought, I said, oh, well, I've already seen this, but I said, well, I'll look at it again. And about 2 or 3 minutes into the movie, they show us a scene of activists in a room. And one of the people said, well, CLR, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And I was like, wait a minute, this is CLR James again. I got to contact Dr. Garrett and find out. First of all, why am I just finding out that he worked with CLR James? And what was that all about? So this is my introduction to Dr. James Garrett, who has had a very strategic life, I would say. And I'll be so bold to say that I think Allah has placed him in different circles for reasons that we may never know, reasons that he may have thought of, but I do know that Michael Hameen, to answer your question in terms of what solutions and strategies we should be thinking about, led me to this is definitely a brother who could share with us the strategies and the solutions that they were after during the civil rights movement. What can we extract from that that can help us in this current situation we find us in? So that's my thesis for the program today. And that'll be the basis of what I'll be trying to elicit from the questions for Dr. Garrett. Long introduction, but I want people to really see and know where I hope we will go with this discussion. If we go somewhere else, alhamdulillah. But this was my intent. And I would encourage you, get your pencil and your paper out because we're all going to school, even though it will be on a YouTube channel. But when it comes to making comments and asking questions, you might want to answer a question or make a comment on a specific point that Dr. Garrett will be making. Before the illustrious Fleming El-Amin has joined the group. So, Brother Fleming, I'm going to give you 30 seconds because I just introduced Dr. Garrett but I'll give you 30 seconds to answer Sister Cheryl's icebreaker and to greet the group. During this time of year, known as fall or autumn in some circles, what is the memory that has your poofy either tight or expansive and those Tims tingling or fully relaxed?
And this is our 30 seconds, not a Fleming 30 seconds. Bro.
Oh, assalamu alaikum. I'll take
Or
15
like
seconds
Like
for my
myself.
beloved sister. The fall of the season. The most beautiful thing is just seeing the leaves change. You know, here in North Carolina, especially up in the mountains, it's such a beautiful, inspiring sight to see. It just makes you realize the majesty of Almighty God Allah. And I remember vividly when Imam Muhammad would come down here on Father's Day, he would fly over the mountains and always indicate that Allah's giving us a message. And seeing the leaves shine so brilliantly, it's a way of saying we're going to do our very best before we return to Allah. Even the leaves are saying that. So we should have the same position. As we change our situation in life, do the best you can to help mankind go forward. And womankind, as far as that's concerned, do your best. That's all we can ask of you. And
Okay.
I've just finished a rally, a prayer vigil, with the Dr. Barber's group. We had them all over the state of North Carolina, a moral rally today. So I'm uplifted, ready to go forward to move humanity. So that's my 15 seconds. I'll take
Okay.
it. Leave it at that.
Fantastic. Debatable whether it was 15, but we'll let you go.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Garrett, getting to you. And then we'll see if anyone has any comments or any questions. I wanted to know, and I think it would help people to get some kind of context of your experiences. Was there a specific moment or experience when you that first awakened in you your commitment to the civil rights movement?
Well, okay. I would think that that's a very, very good question. I think that the catalyst, kind of personal, emotional catalyst, was when I saw a 5-year-old child, like little girl, walking down some steps in Louisiana. She was being urged to be the first Black child at to desegregate schools. And then as I'm watching that, somebody threw something at her and hit her on the shoulder and knocked her to the side. And I think what was I, 16, 15 to 16. And I was a street runner then, I was a gang member. And I think that gave me a connection that that I wanted to be a part of among those who try to look after our children. And the question was then, what's the best way to do it? So I think that's the emotional piece. I think that the physical piece came that summer. I was growing up, I was living in California, and my family sent me to Texas to get me out of trouble. And I was arrested 7 times in 1960 in the beginning sit-ins. And so they didn't keep me out of trouble. I became wedded to the trouble. And I've been involved in the movement since then, since 1960, actually. And so that's those two things I would say off the top of my head were catalysts.
How did your family respond to this activism and this sense of or greater understanding of injustice that incident and other incidents awakened in you?
Well, like most teenagers, I didn't communicate well with anybody who was 10 years older or above. I was just coming in out of the streets. But my grandmother, who was trying to protect me, wanted me to stay out of trouble because she's trying to protect her grandson. And that was in Texas. By the time I get back, I was in lockdown. I was in lockdown, but locked into this movement. I did not know that my father had been active in the 1930s with the Southern Negro Youth Congress. I didn't know that in Texas. I didn't know that my father, one of the reasons he wanted to get out of Texas was because there were investigators looking for him because of his involvement with the first SNCC. That was young people that produced Ella Baker, people like that.
Mm.
And by that time, the circle had taken place so sharply. By that time, I was beginning to connect again with Ella Baker because I was being trained as an organizer. I'm a person who began this training. I was taken in and targeted and chosen by other people, like other Black people, who were active in various movements, and they trained me. And one of the places I was trained was the Highlander Folk School at that point in Tennessee.
Okay.
And Septima Clark and Ella Baker were the unforgettable teachers. They taught me that you're involved in this for life. This is not a phase, it's a way of life. And your goal is not to become a leader. Your goal is to help to build strong people so that they can build their own leaders. Your goal is not to lead an organization, but to train people, pull people together, connect people so that they can build their own organizations. And your job is to do that work, build the models, help build the models, and then work yourself out of a job, disappear. Your job is not to be visible. Your job is to create such a world that at the end of the day, someone will say, well, where did Jimmy go? Well, he went to do something else. We have this work to do. I mean, so I was, in that sense, blessed. That's been my life.
So how long was that training with at Highlander?
Well, I was trained off and on. I mean, that's where Kwame Ture, Rap Brown, most of the people in the SNCC and SCLC,
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, a lot of people were trained at this so-called folk school over time. And so it was over time. It might be 3 weeks at one point, 2 weeks at another. The idea was to train one group of people. I mean, I remember when Septima Clark was teaching people how to read so that they could register to vote. That's how basic adults to read.
Okay.
So you have those kinds of things at a very minuscule way. And then there was the intentional training. You would go into the work. I worked with the Congress of Racial Equality in 1961 in Los Angeles. I was probably one of the few people who the Congress of Racial Equality hired as their staff. I was like 18 and 19.
And for those who don't know, that's CORE. When you hear the term CORE, the
Yeah,
organization CORE, that's Congress of Racial
Yes,
Equality. Yes.
yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So they would send people down to be trained at this school. So I think that one of the things that it doesn't exist now as a training center. In my mind, what has happened over the last 50, 60 years is that the most reactionary forces in this country learn from our work.
Yes.
And they set up training centers, right? This guy, Charlie Kirk, pulled out of junior high school like I was. I mean, I went to East Los Angeles Community College before I went to UCLA. I was just barely there. But they would go and identify, choose, target, and pull out people and take them to train them. And that's what the right did. The right has studied much of what we did in the 50s and 60s and 70s at all levels, everywhere from the Nation of Islam all the way down to the grassroots everyday organizing. So they have trained thousands of young people over time, while we have abandoned, for the most part, that same training. We haven't completely abandoned it, but it is not a priority. It was a priority in 1959 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Wichita, Kansas, and in North Carolina. pulling young kids out of church and taking them and training them, pulling young people out of high school and training them. That's what I think one main thing that's missing is that we don't have dedicated, intentional centers of training and retraining and refocusing and revisiting. In 1975, the Urban League said there were 10,000 organizers in this country. By the year 2000, there were 1,000 organizers. And now we're lucky if maybe there might be 100, 150 organizers. That's people whose lives are dedicated to connecting people and then connecting the people with the people. That now almost does not exist.
Any thoughts on how we might be able to revitalize that?
Well, we have at the Charlie Kirk's, when we were going through our training at Highlander and other places, they were very bare bones. I mean, we were not rich. Charlie Kirk had $80 million. So he and his people could go around and do this. But we have people with resources. There are Black billionaires in this country, Black multimillionaires. I mean, we've lost 350,000 of the foundational people, that is Black women, who are the foundational economic life for the most part of Black people, or have been. This is a very incredible dynamic of Project 2025. We got rid of that sector of the population and it pushed them to the margins. But we still have people who could choose. Instead of buying up an airplane or a yacht, could set up a school and then fund that training center and put people and bring people in there to be trained, because that, I think, is what we need. I know that there are arenas where that's taking place. What I'm saying is, for the 40 or 45 million people, Black people in this country, that's not a priority. It may be a priority for 1 million, but it's not a priority for 45 million. It used to be that one of the most proud things that you could say is that you're an organizer. Now, who would say that? The words have changed. Change agents, augmenters, facilitators, they soften the language. They also soften the intensity. Now, but because as that control over our training went to a so-called nonprofit, to the nonprofit industrial complex, it kind of locked us in so that the people with the money were defining not only the terms of how we name ourselves, but the limits of what we could do. So when I got involved in the movement, I don't think people took us that seriously. They didn't think that, how are Black people going to build a movement that would fully transform the social order of the United States? How's that going to happen in 1955? I was born in 1942. How's that going to happen? Well, by the 1970s, we had transformed it. So that meant that they had to do two things. One is replicated, and the other was marginalize our capacity to do the same thing, to put it down, to denigrate the notion that you would dedicate your life to helping to build the people, not as a kind of a thing you did on the weekends or on a Saturday or Sunday, but your full-time work was to build strong people who would build their movement, who would defend us at all costs.
Okay, so let's look at movement, this concept of movement. And as you reflect back on your involvement, can you share with us an event or a series of events that may have impacted the trajectory of your strategies, depending upon whether it was SNCC or CORE or any other organization, some pivotal moment that in your mind it clicked, okay, we have to turn this around, or our approach has to be different, or we have to look for different solutions. Is there any series of events or one pivotal event that brought you to that reality as you worked in the movement?
My goodness, you're asking some deep questions up in here. I think that no, for me, I think that much of my decisions to go into one particular arena or another were cumulative.
Okay.
I think that the work. I mean, I was working in Los Angeles in 1965. I was the head of the SNCC office, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, that was responsible for the Mississippi Summer Project and was producing a lot of young activist leaders and organizers at that time. But we were doing it in concert. I worked in Mississippi. I was in prison in Mississippi, and I did some thinking while I was in Parchman Prison. And part of that thinking was, well, what's going to be the next step? Because I saw that the influence of organizations like the Nation of Islam and others were influencing most of the organizers in my organization, SNCC. There's a move toward national consciousness, nationalism, love for self. We were narrowing our focus on who we could change and who we needed to focus on, playing the leading role in change. And it was during that time that I participated in discussions at Highlander and other places with people like Bob Moses and Ella Baker, Mrs. Hamer, Fannie Lou Hamer. We were talking about what's going to happen next. I began to conceive of a notion. SNCC began with a group of college students and high school students, most of whom were expelled from school for their activism in breaking down segregation in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my notion, I began to consolidate a notion and discuss with people. Well, what I'm traveling around, I'm doing campus traveling at colleges around California and into Oregon, et cetera. And what I'm seeing is more and more Black youth and veterans coming out of the wars, out of military, were going into colleges in the North because they were being forced open. They were forced to being open because they were being called on to say, well, if you're so critical of the South, why don't you open your doors? So UCLA is opening up, University of Washington is opening up, the community colleges in California are opening. That's where they were going to put all of us, but the state colleges were opening up. So I began to consolidate a view about, well, what would happen if we use the colleges as a base for these more and more, a greater influx of Blacks who are also moving out of the South into the North and the West, as a training center, as a beachhead for a temporary training center, so we can train organizers on these campuses who are then directed. I mean, they would be trained in consciousness and use the resources of the institution to develop the skills. And then they would return to their communities. That was what my general thought was. And over that next year, up until the uprising in LA, in Los Angeles, called the Watts Uprising in 1965, and I was in the middle of that it was important to connect, to make sure that those people who came to those campuses would include people from these communities, directly from the communities, whatever their class status, they would be trained and then sent back in the community. It was because of that I began to consolidate about where to go to try to build that model. And I was invited to go to San Francisco State. I was going to Michigan State because it has a community near it, just right next door to it, a Black community that was like Harvard and a lot of places where all the servants lived, and they had built up a Black community outside of East Lansing, Michigan. Well, so I was going to go there, and then people invited me to go to San Francisco because they said it was very vibrant and that there was already movement activity going on there, and people were settling in, and it was a rather much more contained or smaller space than LA. So that's why I went.
Okay, all right. So you considered the community, the local community, you considered the resources in terms of educational institutions near those communities, and your target audience um, to educate in organizing were people from that community that went to either that state school or UCLA, university. So that was kind of what you envisioned as a workable model for what you wanted to, for developing organizers.
And the notion was that the way the movement was going was that the city was a Black man's battleground. And so, but we had to see that battle as going on for decades as opposed to some kind of short activity. So you need trained people who would remain in place or in some place right in the community for the rest of their lives. So you wanted to find people who in many cases were based right there. And that's what we did. And that's the other thing was when you go onto a campus, you don't go onto a campus subordinate. You go in to take over that space. So the goal, one of the first goals that I sought in being a part of those organizing to develop what became the Black Student Union at San Francisco State, the goal wasn't to integrate into the campus, but to seize the campus, to take over whatever resources we could, and then to transform those resources for the betterment of our community for as long as we felt we needed to be there. And then, but I also saw those as the people in the Korean War called Pork Chop Hill, that you take the hill, you take control of it, and then you abandon it because that's not what you want. What you want is the development of your community. And to the extent that those resources were useful, you use them, but that's so you don't feel a loyalty to the institution. You feel a loyalty to the space that you create. And that's what we did. We basically took over the campus. I mean,
you achieved your goal.
Yeah, we achieved our goals. There was a strike that went on for 4.5 months with 17,000 white students and 2,000 non-white students. There's no way you're going to continue a student strike that shut down a school for 6 months unless you build relationships with everybody, or most of the people on the campus. But we built it from a position of strength.
Right.
And that's
so when you say you were going to seize the campus and this is what the right uses to denigrate current day movements, saying that these elite places and campus spaces have been taken over by, terrorists or supporters of terrorism or this, that, and the other.
Yes, ma'am.
However, what you're presenting is going in from a position of strength, not a subordinate position, but a position of strength to use the resources of that campus for the community that campus is adjacent to. It's just like in New York, Columbia is right there at the tip of Central Park. If you go through the park, you're going to be on 116th Street just about.
Yes.
110th Street. So that was an interesting strategy. Now, that student strike was at State, and it also spilled over to Berkeley.
Yes, it was at Berkeley, University of Washington. It was at Cal State LA. It was in San Francisco. These kinds of movements. But by the time I finished my first level of work in 1968, is when I was a going to be sent to prison, there were about 17 Black student unions. About a year later, there were about a little less than 100. And we developed these Black Studies programs, they were called Black Studies in their formation, as a center for training. Over time, there were nearly 600 of those. So we did transform the educational system in that sense. We found space that our people felt comfortable. We brought in everything from good Catholic schoolgirls to prostitutes to the campus to train them. And they became leaders of that movement. So we didn't say only these kind of people who could survive on the campus could grow. We learned that in the South. We taught people who could not read how to read. And
so that they could vote.
Was to get their children out of jail. So they had an interest. What you had to do was define and consolidate the interest. And when you do that, then people come together and all the things that alienate them begin to fall away. Right?
So this is a key towards coalition building?
That the coalition was Black on Black on Black on Black on Black. And then the other coalitions that was more like a unity. And then the others was to build coalitions so that they could replicate our movement. And that's why we built the Latino students movement, our Chicano students movement, the Indian or indigenous student movement. It was the Black Student Union who organized each one of those movements because we needed to have allies.
Yeah.
And those allies became powerful. And then we went into the Students for Democratic Society and argued with them ideological issues and ultimately took over the white radical movement, and they became allies. So by the time the strike happened, we had allies in every sector, including the administration, including the support staff, including the faculty went out on strike in support of our movement. Why? Because we had made the models, we had built the examples, and we dealt with them principally.
Now, the kind of strength that you're talking about of students on campus, I think that over the last year, the examples of the demonstrations and support rallies and encampments for the situation in Palestine and the reaction of the administration is something that highlights a different kind of relationship between the students and administration than what you were able to build in that movement at state.
I agree. And I think part of it is there are several elements of it. One is that the other side learned.
Okay.
They studied what we did.
They studied what you did.
And they studied our work.
Yeah.
I mean, I get some of my COINTELPRO documents. They detail what I did from when I woke up in the morning until the 3 or 4 hours I slept at night. They followed. They said, well, this person or Kwame Ture or Rap Brown, Jamil Al-Amin.
Yes.
They watched those people, they trained them, they made videos of our work, right? They studied us. So that's one thing that happened. The other thing is that a number of the second and third generation of people who were supposed to be transferring into community saw a potential for them to build careers on the campus. And a number of the people who should have been in the community were consolidating their own roles as administrators and teachers or professors on the campus. To the extent that now very few Black studies or Africana studies or whatever they're called programs have any kind of attenuation with any of community. In fact, they disdain the community because they're trying to build their own personal legacies. So that was a failure. And that's something that eats at me every day, that was a thing that I missed, that the next couple of generations would weaken the movement internally. I thought that there would be attempts to repress the movement from outside, but I did not understand, and my error is that I did not understand how much a number of us were still linked to the very people who enslaved us.
Enslaved us.
How much they loved those people, how much they
We were
imitated
satisfied
them.
to be house Negroes.
Yeah, they worked at it. So I mean, and that became their work. And so that now when people were opposing the genocide against Gaza, white youth came out, white students, a few blacks came out, but now we tell our children, well, you have to look after your career. Well, the fact of the matter is that we're moving toward a situation where if they can get rid of in 90 days 350,000 black women from government jobs, government employments, from top to bottom, with 2 PhDs and law degrees on the basis arguing woke and DEI. If they can do that to black women, who are the bedrock really of the economy, because they feed 3 and 4 extended families for the most part, because black men have been excluded in large measure from the economy. They didn't exclude themselves. Black women didn't exclude them. The social order needed to exclude large sectors of it. If they can do that, then as soon as they finish or they get to a point where they see that they've locked in these so-called immigrants, they're coming after us. There's no future unless we have radical change. And for black people, we have to organize because we don't do well unorganized.
Okay. You've been speaking almost about 28 minutes or so.
Whoa.
Does anyone? No. We're going to keep on going. It's just getting good. That was the appetizer, y'all. I see Manira jumped up with her hand up. So I'm giving people the opportunity at this point, and we're going to continue. If you have any question on what has been the points of our discussion thus far, you can raise your hand. I have 2 hands. I have Sister Manira and I have Brother Michael. So we'll go with Sister Manira. You were first. You have a comment or a question?
Thank you. I have, in watching social media, I saw that there was a starting of a corralling of Haitian immigrants. And the brother that was filming it and posting it was saying that the same thing, that they are positioning to come after us. We have to do something. Now, in your statements, you all were ready, so you didn't have to get ready. You were ready, so you didn't have to get ready. But now, how can we organize and follow that same blueprint, fast, quick, and in a hurry?
I mean, first of all, we have to recognize that's an incredibly profound question for me, because I'm troubled by it every day. The training of people who ended up becoming kind of heroes and heroines during the 1960s, 70s, 80s. That training began after World War II and intensified just at the end of the Korean War. But I mean, organizing training to go out and do work. And I think that we can't do it. I mean, my question is, where can we find a space, Canada or Cuba or Mexico, where we can take groups of people because it's almost too late. We can't, there's no way to build a Highlander that I know of in this country that that won't be attacked. I saw what they did to white kids, white students at New York University and Columbia and UCLA. I mean, that's their own children. And they crushed them brutally. I mean, this same stuff has happened to Black people for the past 500 years, but they attacked their own children. And now they're watchful. They don't, I mean, the notion that COINTELPRO had about not having, never ever allowing a Black Messiah to evolve in the Black community ever again. They don't want any kind of Black organization that's not attenuated to AIPAC. That's the Jewish, major Jewish lobby. So almost all of our Congress people who would normally be, some of them very intense leaders, are owned by Israel. Others are owned by other billionaires. Others are owned by the government, and others are in prison for life. So, in order to do this, we may have to do it community by community. I do see Haitians organizing. I do see people from El Salvador and other places who voted for Trump. Now they're being forced to organize. I'm not certain that we're in the space as a group, as a broad community, now scattered because we're less urbanized. Now we're more. They've ethnically cleansed many of the urban communities that were urbanized with Black people in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Now that's an ethnic cleansing. So the 11 or 12% Black population of San Francisco is now 3 or 4%. So now you have to go out into the Black suburbs and work with them. So I'm not sure about that. One of the reasons I want to have people come together to work on this project.
So you're talking about, when you talk about ethnically clean in the urban areas, you talk about gentrification?
Well, I call it ethnic cleansing.
Right.
But yes, the gentrification is one of the things that's done. But yeah, those are, they interchange. They're the same. I agree that I've moving around Washington, D.C. I was in Washington, D.C. for 13 years when it was called Chocolate City, and then it became Cafe LA City, and now it's Manila Bean City. It is going from 75, 80% Black population to less than 1/3, maybe 25%. So we've got to re-identify where our people are, redefine what community is, use the technology and resources that exist to connect all of our people. But that's work. That's not work. I mean, there's no genius that I know of who's going to do that, and I'm certainly not that. I would like to be in my elder years, be a part of any group of people who do that. Let me just say this. I tried to raise that with people who are attending the National Conference of Black Studies. I mean, I was driven out of that organization. I've been driven out of organizations for pushing exactly what we're talking about today. So, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been raised, but when people's immediate interest of having that career, of having that life, and of touching and feeling Donald Trump or Epstein, to be close to them. I mean, all the rap artists who could have put together $1 trillion. Hey, man. I mean, it's not like the opportunity has not been there. And there's maybe some of it is left. You guys are out there more than I am, because I'm now spend most of my time in Africa or in Southeast Asia. But I do think that it's important for us to find ways to answer the question that sister just raised. I don't have the answer to it. I know we have to do it quickly, in order to survive. But it takes a while to make a diamond, you know, it takes a while. I don't know whether we have that while, but we need to do the best we can to find that while.
Thank you for your response. Brother Michael Hameen, you unmuted yourself. I think
Yes,
your
yes, ma'am.
sound was causing some kind of vibration or feedback, so that's why I muted you. But go ahead with your comment or your question, Brother Michael.
Yes, thank you, and greetings and peace to Dr. James. James Foreman was asked a question about the continuation of the work of the freedom movement. I don't like to use the terminology civil rights. It demeans the work, in my opinion, and I see you agree. He said what happened was when the door of opportunity opened, we didn't have a plan to walk through. That burned into my soul. And we have resourceful people, but the challenge that you've stated, and but I'm a believer that the people that you're talking about that could possibly give us strategies, and I hear strategies coming from you, that oftentimes the Creator hides them until the right time. This is what I glean from history as well as scripture. And I'm looking at Gideon and in the Quran, Talut. The numbers are few, but the support of the Creator is what we have that we depend on. And I took some notes. And when you mentioned uh, the radical change, I'm thinking whether or not a cultural approach, a structure going into the campuses because of this, you know, seeking to destroy African American history, you know, and we were told by Warthi Muhammad to go back into our history and bring forth the best, like the Color Convention Committee, Color Convention Project that took place that I believe Frederick Douglass and others strategized to get us out of the oppressive circumstances of the South and migrate. So my question to you is, uh, even though your base may be over in Africa, we still need to consult with minds like yours, strategic thinkers who were trained for this mission that we're dealing with today. We need consultation. You don't have to. I'm 78, man. I don't have the energy, man. I try to help set up chairs, you know, and I'm worn out, you know. But the mind still desires to be of service, and so we need to consult and we need to pass on. There's always going to be a few. You know, the many have been compromised and, you know, curating these positions of, like you said, comfort, you know, jobs and so forth. But there's always a few. And we just need to encourage one another. We've got resourceful men and women, but I'm thinking that they're thinking that this job is too big for us. A lot of folks are going to Africa, you know, but we still ought to be able to communicate and consult with the more strategic thinkers that we have amongst us. We need the researchers and we need think tank people, you know, and it's very critical. And we need to be reminded that first things have to be first. There are critical issues of danger of threats to our physical lives going on. And you know, the opportunity that we had for strategizing on a uh, moving forward and thriving level, I think that's over. It's critical survival strategy now, in my opinion, and I'm interested in what you think. Thank you.
You're on mute, Dr. James, Dr. Garrett. You're on mute, Dr. Garrett. Can you?
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. I mean, it's trying to be respectful.
Sure. No.
Okay, I think the last piece that brother stated is we are at a critical moment, and I think that uh, uh, that we agree almost entirely on the issues. I do think that there will be some pullback and focus on cultural activities after this fall is completed. I mean, what I mean, this repression that who left of us, we will seek new ways to do. I mean, at the end of the nadir, the collapse of the so-called Reconstruction period in the 1880s and 90s, Black people did scatter in many ways. I mean, but the majority of Black people ended up in horrible conditions. There were people who tried, Booker T. Washington and others who were building small towns, etc., or Black Wall Streets. And whenever white folks got upset about them, they just blew them up or burned them down and killed everybody. Because the cultural component or the singular component was not sufficient. It was sufficient for the Black people to build and grow in their own pace. But any act, right now you have people who talk about any act by Black people to reaffirm themselves, affirm or reaffirm themselves, is seen as an attack or is described as an attack. And so we're in for some rough times along those lines because we have lost our voice. I mean, that was a time when Black people at least were one of, as he mentioned, Jim Foreman, one of the dominant voices in this country. Black people are no longer a dominant voice to move people one way or another in this country. The end of it might have come with Black Lives Matter, which ultimately imploded. But that'd be an external voice. There's a whole set of people who would be given that role of doing the speaking. There would be people who would be given the role to teach our children our history hidden in corners and alleys and backwaters and suburbs in our own schools, etc. We will do that. I think that we will find ways to survive. I am here maybe 6 months of the year, and I am here to do work. I mean, I do participate in not only the marches and activities. I work with Black youth here down where I'm living now, where I reside now. Every day I have to go to a meeting on Thursday with them. So I do work with. So I have a sense of their sensibilities, and that while they're teaching me AI and teaching me how to use technology, right? That's our shared relationship. And some of them have grown very, very strong, but it's a very narrow sector. The rebuilding is going to require very serious mental transition on our parts. And I want to be realistic in saying that the vast majority of us are not prepared for it. Last thing I'll say is this: they will not stop. Sorry. Hello?
No, you're good. You're still going. We
Okay.
can hear you.
They will not stop. This movement, this drive, that's taking place right now is the culmination of 50 years of work on the side of some of the most brilliant minds who are also among the most rapacious and reactionary people on the planet. And they have come together in a temporary or long-term unity in opposition to us. I mean, there are whole churches, white churches, predominantly are all white churches in this country who teach in the name of the apostles replacement theory every Sunday and during the week. And there are young people who are imbued with very, very, very deep animosity toward anybody who is not them or who they don't define as them. This organization that would be replicated in the South in the 1870s and 80s is now nationwide. It is everywhere. So that's what I think we face. I think that our connections internationally, Black people here, it's good for people to go to Africa. It's good for Black people to travel all over to make connections. I think that's a very good thing, because that may be one of the ways that we survive, is to call on people that we have met as we use our opportunities to travel, to be in support of us, to be in solidarity with us, because the first nationwide Gaza since World War II is happening right now in what we call the United States. That's how intense I think. I mean, I'm not 78 years old. I'm 83 years old, and this is a way of life for me. I love our people, and I love change. I really do love all humanity. But this is as I travel outside this country and listen to what people say about what's going on here, and I come back and see that it's very, very real. These are dangerous times, a lot of work to do. And I wish there were pockets of us everywhere who had a similar view of the need and the urgency of organizing to defend ourselves and then to replicate whatever good things that we can do for ourselves and others.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. Sister Martha Naila.
Oh, thank you. God's peace be upon you, everyone. Pretty much of my needing to be answered has been answered to the point that I was going to share about the shared freedom space, being human, and the understanding of that, and how, as you were speaking, the strategies that comes to mind from me. I was going back into the 60s when I was approached by National Youth Organization organizers, and in our local neighborhood, Youth on the Street, Soul Street, Youth on the Soul Beat, excuse me, we were doing street things, and they said, "Well, you're doing what we're getting paid to do," and we got this 2-week offer to go to Nassau, to the Bahamas, and the engagement, the student exchange process was in practice. So the treaties, I'm jumping now straight to treaties that nations have used to develop a system of helping one another in in hard times and definitely in good times. But those treaties are being violated right before our face. We understand, and then I'm asking about our people in general, prophetic, as you mentioned about the apostle part, being taught through an apostolic thinking, but it's still with that image driven who's superior and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
So as we continue to pray, as we those who have the open mindedness now not to see God in an image and concentrate on the shared freedom space, I'm still thinking now that working immediately, boundary by boundary within the community strategically is going to be the answer, as we see the outward picture happening. Don't implode, as you mentioned about Black Matters. So I'm just targeting immediate persons, still sticking together, still praying, still looking at the prophetic model that was established for people being human. Stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Okay, phone number ending in 888-7888. You have your hand up. Would you please identify, give us your name and where you're coming from?
Assalamu alaikum. This is Bilal. Thank God for the day that we are in and the knowledge that we have to deal with the situation that are before us. I remember Imam Wataji Muhammad, he let us know that once you take out universals, you're cutting yourself short of your goal, of really achieving your goal as a servant of Allah, a servant of God. Because it's a universal message and they incorporate many people, the forming of allies and different groups comes about, but the message has to be a universal message of humanity serving God under one goal, and that is to produce the mind that God wants to serve him. And God is in charge of everything. So don't cut out yourself and just be black. You don't want to be black, you want to be a servant of God. And then you have access to all the universals. And we keep that out front. And that's where the success lies. It's success in serving God, purpose, knowing his plan, and executing it effectively. But it's not going, skin color, not going to get it. It's heart, it's intellect, it's servitude, and staying focused on the global destiny. So praise be to God. That's what I have to share. And that basically, because I'm an influence of Imam Wataji Muhammad, and I have to give you what I would want him, that what I would think that Allah gave him for us to have and to relate that. So that's how I stand. So praise be to Allah. Praise be to
Thank
God.
you, Brother Bilal.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Seeing no more comments. Brother,
Sister?
yeah, well, you just got your hand up there after I said seeing no
Yeah,
more comments.
it's been up. It's been up for a while.
Oh, I didn't see it. It didn't show. Go ahead.
For a while. Patiently. I wanted to talk to you about, brother, you mentioned, I wanted you to talk to us more about this concept of this liberation movement and this preparation. I'm gonna speak. I know Brother Ishmael is still on here. But I'm gonna speak from this aspect of being born after this liberation movement, or I know you don't call it the civil rights movement or whatever, but so I'm gonna speak from that aspect. I have been watching these play outs in this particular fight play out on social media. And the latest one has been with the attorney and politician Bakari Sellers with Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to it, but yeah. Mr. Screaming Smith, that's what I call him. You know what he is, right?
For ESPN Sportscaster.
Yes.
Commentator.
Yeah. ESPN screaming sportscaster. He's screaming to the microphone like nobody can hear him. But he's been doing this thing where he calls himself, his whole thing about being a straight shooter is he's been doing this thing where he's attacking mostly Black politicians or Black leaders, and including people like Jasmine Crockett, or before it was Kamala Harris, and mostly women. What we've noticed is a lot of women, Black women. And then when Bakari Sellers came to their defense, he jumped on them and he went to this whole tirade about him being a hater or jealous, or him being what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. He called him like he was resentful of his level of success. And Bakari went into this. I wanted to read this because I think it goes to your point. He said, while you're appreciating the gaze of those individuals, he said, I'm not being, first he said, uh, he called him a charlatan. And he said, I'm not hating. We're disappointed in you because you have this platform. While you're appreciating the gaze of those individuals in the White House, the gaze of people like Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, you're quiet as a church mouse. I'm going to change some words because I can't say them. Peeing on cotton when 47 is out here trying to take away our voting rights, when he's putting police and National Guard in our American cities, taking Black and brown people out of their homes. He compared him to Ice Cube and Jason Whitlock. Then he said, we have individuals out here who've been on this freedom struggle. They've been individuals who exhibit behaviors of charlatans. Some people are in it for change, and some people are in it for the change, meaning money. And then he also said that he thought that, so Smith came back and he kept talking about, he's no fond of Bacardi sellers or people like that. He thinks he's so judgmental of other people. He's allergic to mirrors. And he said that he was jealous. And he told him that he thought that this was prompted by jealousy. And Bacardi sellers said what a lot of us have been thinking about him. He just said, you use your platform to tear down the people who are actually in communities doing the work. What you hear in my voice is not resentment, it's disappointment. I know you stand on the shoulders of strong Black men, and you are disappointing us every time you continue to chop down those people who are doing that real work. And then he accused him of catering to these like white right-wing people. I think we're different because you would rather those individuals and the Donalds and the Erics and the Bill O'Reillys to say, job well done. And I'm looking for people like Marion Barry and Julian Bond and Judy Richardson, my dad, Cleveland Sellers. I'm looking for the people who actually did the work and whose shoulders we stand upon to be able to look at me when I'm done with my journey and say, you put your heart in it. You put your shoulder to the wheel to help our people get out of the ditch. I say this to say that we have a lot of people who believe that fame and followers are the same as, or that equal impact and credibility, and they do not. They do not. And so from my generation down, we're counting how many people we can say are on our social media, or how many people we can say, are followers, rather than what is your impact and what do you say has credibility. Because there's the preparation for the battle. When I was listening to the question, and as I was listening to you speak, so I wanted you to speak more on that. It's too many of us who are willing to, from what I know of the liberation movement, there weren't as many people willing to sell out. There was always going to be some people who were selling out their communities, but there weren't as many as there are right now who are willing to say, give me the money. I mean, look at Snoop. He was calling him all kind of names and saying he'll take out the first person who would sell out. And then first time he had the opportunity, he did it himself. He did it himself, and he continues to do it. So I want that kind of real talk, because real talk, we can strategize all we want to. And I believe in strategy. If you listen to this show, it's all I talk about. How can we strategize? But we're not just strategizing against a supposed them. We're also strategizing against the us that are in the room, telling them what we're talking about.
Your question is,
Es todo. No, this is what I wanted him to talk about. This the preparation for the battle. It's not just the enemy in the house. The enemy is not just outside. He's in both places, sir. So,
Dr.
Understood.
Garrett, do you have a response?
No,
so
apparently,
Dr. Garrett.
I mean, had something. You had something, brother. I mean, I mean, I don't know what to say to that. No, I just, my basic, I don't really spend a lot of time with Stephen Smith, who I've known of for, I guess, 15 to 20 years. And I, all success for him in terms of his interests. But that's what I was trying to lay out to you about the people choosing careers and their own immediate interest over, and those are people who have skills, who could make use. And then I also tried to suggest that there are entertainers and business people, etc., who, as long as I've known about the Nation of Islam and the various changes, have always said, look, if we could pull all that together, pool all those resources, we'd be in a different place, which I agree with. What I am is a person who tries to figure out, where the work is. Of course, I know Bakari Sellers. I mean, I guess I was in jail with his father on several occasions. Cleve Sellers, back in the days when, we bore witness in the way we did. I think that mine is a little bit more narrow about the focus on the need to train people who will spend all of their time involved in movement. And I'm trying to turn this thing off. Spend all their time around organizing and building movements. That's all. So mine is a little bit more narrow. Certainly, there are enemies among us. Of course, I grew up at a time when if you left the room, you might be called an enemy. And so almost everybody I know was called an enemy at one stage or another. So what I try to do is to find the lowest common denominator and then the next step and the next step and take it step by step toward that goal. I work with young people between the ages of 17 and 22 almost every day who are involved in the great media piece, which is both dangerous and useful. Thing is to find out where is the useful part of it and make use of that. So I don't have any specific challenge or support for what you said. For me, this is a way of life. That's all I can say.
Brother James, let me ask you this, because I was going to get back to you. Mentioned you had worked with you earlier. And for those who came on later in the discussion, when you talked about the training you received from people like Ella Baker, that a key factor of the training was you're not a leader, you're not trying to be a leader, you're not trying to be up front, you're trained to put yourself out of business. You're trained to go to the people, help the people, and then move on to the next project, was the methodology of the training that you received as an organizer.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to, you don't necessarily have to answer this now, but perhaps going back to Manira's question of how do we in this survival time that we're in now, incorporating her comments with Michael's comments, how do we quickly organize with the way that you mentioned organizing? And I wanted to ask you this, have you had those kind of conversations, or would you consider having those kind of conversations? Because you mentioned the students were helping you with AI and technology. Perhaps technology, finding or creating a technology platform can present those corners or those spaces for the type of training that you outlined for us earlier. Do you see that as a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, any kind of tech. I mean, we use the technology that we had at the time. You know, the Fanon piece about each generation must discover its own mission, fulfill it or betray it. We have to use the tools that we have available now, and I'm open to that. I think that there are ways. That if we decide. I mean, let me just give you a quick example.
Okay.
I have been working for the last 2 years or nearly 3 years on not this platform, but as a kind of Zoom with young people in Myanmar, used to be called Burma,
Mm-hmm.
heavily Muslim nation, heavily, very much involved with teaching them and I mean working with them and training them. They're at war with a very repressive military government. They're in the forest, right? And I'm running classes, training. Their greatest interest is on the Black movement in the 20th century. Most it's incredible that almost everywhere I go, Dubai or wherever I go, the people who are interested, who's the young people particularly, their thing is we're proud of what black young people did.
Mm-hmm.
We're proud of what black people in the U.S. That's what I'm saying. That they look to us. It's incredible some of the things that I've seen. So what I'm saying is that any kind, I don't mind the technology. I want to make use of that. I might not be the best facilitator of the use of that, but I can design a training program that can be filtered through the people who are in this room right now. They can discuss it. I can do that. I have that skill. Hell, they've been training me how to do it for the last 50 years. So I can do that. I can detail it to a community practice. What is a specific end product? I know how to put together nonprofit organizations. I know how to put together businesses because the best thing is that Black people have been I am a humanist. Black people have, in the first place, been very good to me because that's my first training base. Those I know those are things, they're skills that a number of us have who are still alive, who would be quite willing to offer those skills. And that's what I do with this group of about 16 or 17 young people. Many of them went to their first demonstration in their lives just a couple of days ago because they want to touch and feel it. They want to feel how it is and then come back and discuss it. There are skills that some of us have. There's skills that everybody in this room right now, if we put our heads together right now, we could put together training programs. Somebody might be better at recruiting than I am. Somebody might be better at finding facility to do this as a model and then replicate it than I can. I'm for delegating and being delegated with and delegating to. That's what organizers do. They don't mind learning from others and then giving to still others and then going someplace else and doing that same thing better. That's all I'm saying. That's basically what I was trying to lay out in what I thought was going to be a preliminary discussion. That this is no preparation for this, but that's what I see as an important thing for us to do. I'm looking for places to do it. I have traveled and worked almost everywhere in the world, and I do know that it can be done. But I do also know that it's necessary to a number among all the other work and skills that one has. There has to be some sector of the population who are capable of pulling all those sectors together without making their own idiosyncratic attitudes the primary focus. There are some of us who can do that. And that's all I'm saying, that I'm willing to do it at any time, under any circumstances. If I have to thumb a ride to get to it, fine. I mean, this is a way of life. There are others of us who are like this, of every generation. And I wish we could pull all those together before they're taken away. Because I tell you, when this guy comes, you might be praising God and the Savior and the apostles and everything else. But if you see what they are doing in terms of terror, this is something that we have not, as a body of people, experienced in such a broad way, at least in my lifetime. Black people have always been the center of whatever terror was going to be imposed. My view is that it'll be universal this time. There won't be anybody left out, and we will be among them. My other view is that no escape other than our creating way to defend ourselves and our humanity and creating another social order, a new one that's open for everybody. That's my sense. I know they won't stop now. That's the difference. They won't stop. We must stop them.
Well, I can say that there might be one number that I'm not familiar with. I can say that people on this particular Zoom, we have a directive to remake the world. And that's what we're striving to do, given our current circumstances, but headed in a direction, God willing, that is in accordance with the language and the thought process and the logic of the revelation of the Quran, the example of Prophet Muhammad, and those gems that were given to us, those of us who were in the Nation of Islam, as well as those of us who have accepted the leadership of Imam Worthy B. Muhammad and are committed to carry on that mission. Even though he's not physically alive, we do have his knowledge body among us, so that we have to dig into it and we have to mine out those keys, those gems that can help us in working with people like you and who have the background and experience in organizing and creating movements that have been successful. Inshallah, this is a part of what we hope to do and a part of what the mission of this particular program is. Brother Fleming, you've been in and out, you haven't had a chance to make any comment. I don't know how much of the program you've been able to listen to, but if you have a comment, I'd like to give you an opportunity now, because we are winding down. We're at about 15 more minutes.
Thank you very much. I first want to thank our brother for a very thought-provoking presentation. I'll try to do this in 30 seconds or less, because I want to give others a chance to participate. But don't hold me to that. There's so much energy in what he's saying and the passion he's using to present the case. I just left O'Reilly literally with Dr. Barber, and there's a sense among people, regardless of your faith, regardless of your religion, et cetera, of wanting to come together for a common cause. And in the word community and analyze what it means, the core of it is coming to unity. Now, what you agree on to bring that about will vary from one community to another, or one ethnic group to another, but have a sense of unity within your ethnic purpose of life. Is it just to accumulate as much as I can? Bank it in the bank somewhere and let it grow in interest? Is it to be involved in community service? Is it to move humanity forward to the best of your ability, of your God-given talents? What is your value core that motivates you to participate in community, in state government, and federal government? Have you really assessed what is your value system? And I think our brother sort of identifying our collective unity at one point in our lives. I looked recently at a program called The Dirty Work. It's like a bio on Andy Young and what he did. It's currently on MSNBC. If you want to look at it, I think it's a very good reflection what he went through as the one who did the dirty work behind that whole movement and got very little credit for it. In fact, he was criticized consistently for what he was doing, but in the end, he made progress. But he also ran into a hornet's nest when he became ambassador to the United Nations and took a position with Israel and the Palestinians, and he wanted to provide some support for them, and he got, all kind of criticism for that. But his career, what he started off as, elevating all the way up to the ambassador, was something we can look at and learn from. And I think it complements what our brother's saying today. We have to have a unique solution to our unique problems. We can't just imitate others. We have to have our unique problem, a unique solution for the problems that we are culturally sensitive to. And that, I think, is at the core of his presentation. What will be that solution? How can we come together and remove ourselves out of the formula and just give the credit to whoever deserves the credit? And that's one of the big problems of personality worship that permeates throughout our society. It's not community based, it's personality based, and that will never work long term. And I'll end with this. When I first went to Cornell College, they'd just taken over the administration building in 1968. Cornell College is in Mount Vernon, Iowa. There were only 17 Black students on campus when I got there. It was less than that in 1968, and I got there in 1970. But those students worked together to demand certain things from the administration, and our class were the ones that carried out. I'm saying that to say that you got to have not just a short-term plan, but also a long-term plan, and then work towards that plan without taking credit for it, just seeing the plan evolve and take roots, inshallah, going forward. So we can do this. I have all the confidence that we have a mission of our own to fulfill. And I think with proper guidance and sincere people in front, sincere people on the ground, we can make this happen. So I have hope that indeed we can make a difference for our grandchildren to make their life better than the ones that we're experiencing ourselves. And don't take anything less than that. Nothing less than that for our future generations, as we say, God willing, or inshallah. I'm going to stop there because I'd like to hear the brother's comments on whether or not he's seen the dirty works on the biography of our brother Andy Young. Have you had any comments about that program?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yes, I saw the program. I had seen a preliminary program as it was being put together. I knew Andy Young when we were both very young, and I was even younger than he was. I mean, I was fortunate to be involved in this stuff. We didn't call it, in SNCC, we didn't call it dirty work. What we said is that if you're going to make spaghetti and sauce, it's the sauce that's the key.
Mm.
that you can have spaghetti look any kind of color, whatever it is, but it's going to taste like,
Well,
it's going to be pasta unless you.
yeah.
So that was us. We didn't. Our thing was to put the sauce together. So that if you got on a bus to go to travel to a meeting, somebody had to organize that bus. So that's just, some of us do that. And so that's a way of life. I think that the wonder of it and I got that from the dirty work that I saw, was that we gained so much from being at the core of stuff that at the end of the day, you don't have a big audience, that you go into the bathroom as you're taking a shower and you start giggling. You say, hey, man, I know for me that would not have happened had I not been there doing this at that time. So you grow so much, you learn so much. I mean, you think about where Brother started. And I mean,
Right.
he ended up an ambassador, but he's a lowly schoolboy, trying to figure out what Christianity is. And so, he's got exposed to the whole world. I guess my beginning would be a shotgun house in Texas to moving up to the projects. That's my advancement. At the social level, I do have 2 earned PhDs and a law degree, and I'm allowed to practice before the International Court of Justice. that's the movement. That's my family and the movement that helped create those circumstances. The people that I was around who nurtured me and helped me to grow. I owe all of that plus to whatever else I believe. I don't speak about my beliefs because I'm not good at it. I am much better at speaking about the people that I care about and love and the humanity I care about and love and what they've given to me. So that's what I got from I mean, I was just listening to myself when I watched watched that last night. I said, yeah, I know that well. I know that well. I didn't know that, but I know this well. So it's those kinds of things that make my life worth living. So I'm good. I'm fine.
Okay, I'm going to go to Amatullah Alaji because the other two hands, we've heard you ask questions or make comments earlier. This is her round, and we have 8 minutes left. So, Amatullah, you want to ask your question or make your comment? Amatullah?
Yes, actually, I wrote mine out, but greetings to the guests and to everyone. My question is there a current recording summarizing your work?
Well, there's going to be a if I get time, I'm trying to finish an autobiography. There are on what I'll do is that I'll send that to Sister Amatullah. But I'm one of those people that shows up. I'll show up on YouTube or this or that. I don't have a podcast. I've never looked for one. But there are people who have gathered and compiled um, some of the discussions I've been involved in. As Sister Amatullah talked about a couple of things that took place at Berkeley, one with the law school, because I mean, most people, I don't talk about being a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 40 years. And in my field is international trade and labor law. Most people don't know that. But that's what I do. I work on international humanitarian projects. But Sister Amatullah I think that both of those were recorded. And so those are a couple to begin with. And then I can try to add to that if there's an additional interest in some of the things that I've been involved in and in the projects that with the humanitarian projects that we're involved in right now in Namibia.
So, Dr. Garrett, why don't you go on and give us some highlights of your Namibia project?
Well, okay, very quickly, basically, I started working in Vietnam in 1992. The idea was to see what is possible to counteract some of the very destructive things that were done in my name during the Vietnam War. I had first been in North Vietnam before the war had really kicked off. I met with one of the leaders of the youth movement because we were trying to organize a global peace movement, and I was a part of that with SNCC. So I have a long history. In Vietnam, we built a couple of hospitals addressing Agent Orange. But Agent Orange is a chemical that was dropped on the people in Vietnam and American soldiers too, that has a 175-year half-life. That is, it's going to affect probably 6 or 7 generations. And what it does is it does terrible things in terms of in the body. I mean, it does horrible things. So we started working on that. And so over the last 30 years, these relationships have been built. So in Vietnam, I'm considered to be an overnight success. It only took 30 years to be an overnight success. And they asked us to go to Namibia, partly because I knew Sam Nujoma, who was the father of the country, and his wife, Theo Fielding, and my wife and I, who's Vietnamese, have been working in that arena, uh, developing health clinics and trying to build a major hospital. We built 2 in Vietnam that are huge, and we're building. We found that it's best to start with small community projects in the Herero and other communities in the northwest of Namibia. Now, Namibia was a place that the Germans first occupied, and this is where they learned to do what they did to the Jews. They killed, slaughtered nearly 3.5 million people in what was then called Southwest Africa. The remaining people, then they captured about between 80,000 and 100,000 women and raped them and produced a whole generation of Creoles. Then there are another, so it's the population of a place that's 1/4 the size of the United States is about 6 million people. It is one of the richest in terms of raw materials, richest countries on earth, but the richest stayed in the ground because the leadership of that country decided not to allow their country to be used for extraction. So we've developed a partnership with them, and we're working on projects. The main one, which is to continue to build health centers, training centers for medical people, and we work with international uh, medical organizations. We do a lot of work there. Uh, these are projects we're talking about, multi-billion-dollar projects. I don't want to go talk about the money too much in this setting, but these are major projects that we do with the UN, with various nations, and um, um, they're providing support for our projects, and we're trusted at the organization of Global Community Advancement Centers. So that's basically what we're about.
Fantastic. Well, my apologies to Brother Michael and Brother Bilal, but our time has come to an end. I hope that I feel confident. I hope and I feel confident at the same time that Allah has answered our prayers for this program to be insightful and inspiring to us who are on this mission of remaking the world. And Brother James, you know I don't have any shame about calling you up and saying, "Listen, we need you here, we need you there." So,
It is.
so you can try to
Anytime, my
escape
sister.
to Namibia, but we will track you down if we need to do some consultation. And I thank you for your generosity of spirit and knowledge, um, and hope. You know, you are an example that we have to be prepared to run the marathon. We just have to do it, you know. We have recently celebrated 50 years, and there are ongoing celebrations. There will be one at the end of this month in North Carolina, in Raleigh, and Durham, North Carolina. The leadership of Emmanuel to the Muhammad and Interfaith Project, which proves it's exciting the way that they've structured those 4 days and the people that they have participating. So we're looking forward to that. So as a community from 1930, 1933, we know what it is to be a part of a marathon, and those of us who have been in it from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, on up till today. Those seeds were planted, and they're breaking forth, and the plants are beginning to grow, and now we have to really put into action the knowledge and the skills that we have gained throughout this struggle. And in collaboration with people like you, who have contributed much to the broad shoulders that we stand on. Thank you all for your participation. I see Imam Muhammad Abdul Amin has joined us. Inshallah, God willing, I have asked him to be a guest on the November 9th program. So we look forward to his participation. Let me see. Next week is Brother Fleming. No, Sister Cheryl, you up next week? Any tips you want to give us about next week's program? You're keeping it a secret. Okay, she has it as a secret. All right. Well, inshallah. So you have to, that's known as a cliffhanger, I think. So those who are on today, you have to make sure you come next week. And I'll ask my two co-hosts if you have any final comments. Sister Cheryl, do you have any final comments?
Call your representatives.
Call your representatives. Okay.
Call your representatives. Tell them, if it's not what we want, you
Okay.
already know. I think I carry a lighter in my handbag. I carry a lighter in my handbag. Burn it down. I'm good. I'd burn it down and start over before I give in. Don't give in. The people
Okay.
first. People first. Esto.
Okay. She stopped before
That's 30 seconds, Brother
before we
Fleming.
started to have to give the setup the Cheryl Sudduth free Cheryl Defense Fund. Brother Fleming.
I want to show him. See,
No,
that's called less than 30 seconds, Brother Fleming.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
That was less than 30 seconds. Could easily get you 30 years, but go ahead,
That
Brother
was probably
Fleming.
a GoFundMe. Well, inshallah, I would just offer this. A lot of what our brother said this evening. This little thin book is only 20 pages. It's called Muslim Unity. But the connection between our youth and what we have to teach them beyond just the formalities of the religion, much of it is in this small book. So I encourage you, if you don't have it, it's only 20 pages. You can read it over lunch if you eat lunch, but it's called Muslim Unity. But it delves into the need for us to connect to our youth and not just go through the formalities of religion per se, but get beyond that to really give our youth a specific strategy and plan to improve their lives. So with that, I want to thank our brother again. I was very inspired, reminded me of a lot of things in my early life.
From your Afro days. From your
Yes, my
Afro
God.
days.
Oh my God, dashiki, 3/4 length dashiki and sandals and an afro, about 7 inches thick. But it was good to get best experiences of my life too, though. But in all seriousness, I hope we don't forget our sister in Cuba who passed away recently, Sister Shakur, and what she went through and the false charges they put against her. She had to leave America to find life in Cuba. So those that don't know the story, do a little research. I think it complements also what our brother was saying today. I'll end with that and thank God for the attentiveness. And let's do more active listening. Let me say it again. Let's do more active listening to try to understand what we're saying instead of just responding to what we're saying, inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamu
So that
alaikum.
book, Muslim Unity, how can people get
Yes,
it?
it's Imam W.J. Muhammad's book. Just simply get two choices. Let me find it real quick for you. You can go to the Ministry of Imam W.J. Muhammad. I'll give you a phone number, 708-679-1587, or email wjministry@sbcglobal.net. I repeat, wdmministry@sbcglobal.net, or the phone number 708-679-1587. You can always go to www.themosquecares.com as another option.
WDM Publications too.
Yes.
WDM Publications. You get orders on there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Joel. Another senior scholar in our midst there.
Thank you so much. So on that note, Sister Cheryl, your final. Well, no, not really. We're going, Brother Fleming, you want to lead us in closing dua?
All right, alhamdulillah. Usually I say the Arabic Al-Fatiha, but we're going to go to the last chapter in the Holy Quran this time, and we'll do it in English for the sake of our entire audience today. In the name of Almighty God, most merciful, most gracious, say I seek refuge in the Lord and cherish of mankind, the King or ruler of mankind, the Allah or judge of mankind, from the evil whisperer, the same who whispers into the hearts among man and Jan, then withdraws after his whisper. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all very much. Cheryl?
I mean, thank you very much. Join us next week, same time, same channel. 1 o'clock on that other coast.
The best.
Noon.
Where the sun
Noon on the
rises.
central. Noon on the central coast, on the central time zone, and 10 a.m. on the west coast, where we will be discussing our obligations to transform our faith into action, to proactive civic engagement.
Yes.
Today and the rest of the week, do something for someone else without the expectation of anything in return. Don't post it. Don't look for a pat on the back. Don't look for, some kudos or any of that. Just do it because it's the right thing to do. Stay civically engaged. Stay proactive. Stay positive. Stay philanthropic. Stay prayerful. And with that, hola.
Hola,
I couldn't resist.
hola.
I couldn't resist. And with it,
You had to do
it. I had to do it. Stay informed, stay educated, stay engaged in your community. And inshallah, we will see you next week, because with that, it is 12:08, and that is a
It's
wrap.
a wrap. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
We appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.